Every man has asked himself this question in silence. Does she really love me? Or am I just wasting my time? It's the doubt that eats away at your confidence, the thought that keeps you up at night. And here's the truth. If you don't know the signs, you'll never have the answer. Women don't always speak their heart, but they always reveal it in what they do. That's why today, I'm going to give you the 12 things women only do for the men they truly love. By the end of this video, you'll know if her love is real or if you've been fooling yourself all along. You're here because deep down, you already sense something. Maybe she loves you, maybe she doesn't, but you want the truth. And trust me, you're not alone. Men everywhere face the same doubt. So before we dive deeper, subscribe, hit like, and drop a quick comment below. Have you ever felt unsure about her feelings? Write yes or no. Because what's coming next will either confirm your fear or give you the reassurance you've been waiting for. Number 1. She introduces you to her friends and family. When a woman truly loves a man, she doesn't hide him in the shadows. She wants the people who matter most in her life to know who you are. Think about it. If she's keeping you away from her family, if she avoids posting you on social occasions, if she never mentions your name in conversations with her closest circle, what does that really mean? It means she hasn't chosen you with pride. Love has no need for secrecy. When a woman loves you, she naturally wants to blend her world with yours. She doesn't feel embarrassed to say, "This is my man." Instead, she feels proud to stand beside you, because to her, you're not just someone she's dating, you're someone she's investing her emotions and her future into. Now, let me give it to you straight. If she keeps you hidden, you're not the main character in her story, you're just a placeholder, and that's dangerous. A woman who truly loves will bridge the gap between your world and hers. She'll invite you to meet her family, not just as a guest, but as someone who belongs. When a woman brings you into her inner circle, it's more than an introduction, it's a declaration. She's saying, "You're not temporary, you're part of my life." Number 2, she invests time and stays through the long haul. Every man needs to understand this. Time is the ultimate test of love. Anyone can play sweet for a few weeks, even a few months. But when challenges show up, when the excitement fades and real life begins, that's when you see who's really there for you. A woman who truly loves you doesn't vanish when things get inconvenient. She doesn't disappear the moment you stop entertaining her, or when life throws struggles at you. Instead, she stays. She shows up when you're sick, when you're broke, when you're doubting yourself. That's the kind of loyalty that can't be faked. Here's the truth. Women who are only in it for fun or convenience will cut ties once they get what they want. They'll leave you hanging, confused about what went wrong. But the woman who genuinely loves you doesn't measure the relationship by what she can extract from you. She measures it by what you can build together. The long haul is not glamorous. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and it requires sacrifice. And when a woman endures all of that with you, without flinching, it's because her love is anchored in something real. A woman who stays through the storms is not just with you, she has chosen you. And in love, that choice means everything. Number 3, she confides in you deeply. Pay attention here, because this is one of the clearest signs of real love. When a woman opens up her world to you, she isn't just talking, she's surrendering a part of herself that she doesn't show to anyone else. A woman in love doesn't just tell you about what she ate for lunch or how stressful her day was. She reveals her fears, her childhood scars, her dreams, and the insecurities she hides from the rest of the world. That level of honesty isn't casual, it's sacred. And if she chooses to share it with you, it means she sees you as more than a boyfriend. She sees you as a partner she can trust with her soul. Here's the reality. If she doesn't love you, she won't risk being vulnerable. She'll keep conversations shallow. She'll deflect when things get serious, and she'll never let you close enough to see the truth. Trust is expensive, and a woman only spends it on the man she loves. When she confides in you, she's not just sharing information, she's testing your ability to protect her heart. How you respond to her honesty determines whether she feels safe to keep building with you. If she gives you her deepest truths, understand this: you're not just in her life, you're inside her heart. Number 4. She prioritizes time with you over friends. A woman's schedule is the clearest reflection of her values. No matter how busy she is, no matter how many people demand her attention, a woman in love finds a way to make time for the man who matters most. This doesn't mean she abandons her friends or isolates herself from her circle. Balance is healthy, and you should never expect her to cut everyone else off. But notice the pattern. If you consistently come second to her social life, if you always have to fight for a place in her calendar, then understand this: she hasn't placed you at the center of her priorities. A woman who loves you will cancel plans when you truly need her. She'll choose to spend a quiet night with you instead of chasing constant excitement with others. Not because she's forced to, but because being with you brings her more fulfillment than being anywhere else. Men often ignore this detail, but it's critical. When she values your presence above everything else, she's showing you where her heart truly belongs. If, on the other hand, she constantly chooses the party, the friends, the distractions, then you're just another option, not her choice. Time is the most expensive gift she can give you. When she offers it freely, without hesitation, that's love in action. Number 5. She feels comfortable not being perfect around you. In the beginning of a relationship, most women put on their best face. Perfect makeup, polished words, flawless behavior. It's all part of the performance to impress. But love strips away the performance. When a woman loves you, she no longer feels the need to pretend. She lets you see her without the mask. She's not afraid for you to catch her on a bad day, in sweatpants with messy hair. She doesn't panic if her jokes fall flat, or if she reveals quirks that others might find strange. Around you, she breathes easier because she knows she doesn't have to earn your acceptance. It's already there. Here's the cold truth. If she's always on, if she never shows you her raw side, then she doesn't feel safe enough to be herself with you. And that means her heart hasn't chosen you completely. Perfection is exhausting, and no one can keep it up forever. When she loves you, she trusts you with the unpolished version of herself. She trusts that you'll still see her beauty beyond the presentation. Understand this: when a woman drops her guard, it isn't carelessness, it's intimacy. She's showing you her reality, not her performance. And if she's willing to be real with you, that's love, speaking louder than words ever could. Number 6, she stops entertaining other men. This is a line every man needs to pay attention to. Before she chose you, she may have had plenty of options: men calling, texting, trying to take her out. But when a woman falls in love, those other voices fade into the background. She no longer needs the validation, the attention, or the thrill of knowing other men want her. Because in her mind, she has already found the one who matters. If she's still flirting, still keeping backup plans, still leaving the door open for other men to walk in, then hear me clearly. You are not her priority. You're just one of many. A woman in love doesn't juggle candidates. She commits. Some men fool themselves by ignoring the signs. They see the suspicious messages, the constant attention from strangers, and they pretend it's harmless. But love doesn't leave room for competition. If she's serious about you, she'll make it clear to the world and to herself that her energy belongs to one man, you. The truth is simple. When she stops entertaining other men, it's not just about exclusivity. It's about respect. She's saying, I've chosen you, and I don't need anyone else. That's not weakness. That's loyalty. And if you don't see that shift, You need to ask yourself if she's really chosen you at all. Number 7. She sees you in her future. A woman in love doesn't just think about the present moment. She envisions tomorrow, and you're standing right there beside her. Pay close attention to how she talks about the future. Does she include you in her plans, or are you always absent from the picture? When she loves you, she naturally imagines life with you in it. She'll talk about the kind of home she wants to live in, the trips she dreams of taking together, even the family she hopes to build. She doesn't speak in terms of me. She speaks in terms of we. That's not casual talk. That's her heart projecting commitment. On the other hand, if every conversation about the future excludes you, that's not an accident. It's a warning. She's keeping her options open because she doesn't see you as permanent. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll feel that absence. Here's the truth. Women don't fantasize about men they don't value. They don't invest their imagination in someone temporary. If she's painting a future with you, it's because she's already chosen to build her life around you. So listen carefully. If her future has space for you, it's not just a dream. It's her way of telling you, I want you in my forever. Number 8. She shares every detail of her life with you. When a woman loves you, you become the first person she thinks about, whether something good happens, something bad, or even something trivial. You're the one she wants to celebrate with, the one she wants to cry to, the one she wants to tell every random story to. This is not about oversharing for the sake of talking. It's about intimacy. When she loves you, her instinct is to weave you into the fabric of her daily life. Every detail she shares is her way of saying, I want you to be part of my world. It means she values your perspective, your reaction, your presence in even the smallest corners of her existence. Here's the sharp truth. If she keeps you out of her daily narrative, she hasn't let you all the way in. If you only get fragments, if she hides important parts of her day or her struggles, then you're not the man she trusts with her whole self. Pay attention, because this is how women bond. Love makes her want to connect with you from sunrise to midnight, and when you become her first call, her last message, and the constant thread running through her day, that's no accident. That's her heart choosing you again and again. Number 9, she looks past your flaws. Every man has weaknesses, bad habits, mistakes, insecurities. We all carry them. The question is not whether you're perfect, but whether she's willing to stay even after seeing the imperfections. When a woman truly loves you, she doesn't pretend your flaws don't exist. She sees them clearly, but she chooses to look beyond them. She doesn't excuse destructive behavior, but she has the patience to work through the rough edges with you. She believes in the man you are becoming, not just the man you are today. That belief is powerful. It gives you the drive to rise, to improve, to become someone better because she saw potential where others only saw problems. Here's the cold reality. If she doesn't love you, your flaws will be her exit door. The moment things get inconvenient, she'll use your shortcomings as a reason to walk away. Love, however, doesn't walk at the first sign of imperfection. Love leans in. Love stays when it's easier to leave. Understand this. Her patience with your flaws is not weakness, it's commitment. It's her way of saying, I know you're not perfect, but I still choose you. And in a world where people abandon each other for less, that kind of loyalty is rare. Number 10. She remembers the little things that matter to you. Love is not proven in grand gestures. It's revealed in the details. A woman who truly loves you pays attention, not just to the big events, but to the subtle preferences, the small remarks, the hidden details that most people overlook. She remembers the song you played on your worst day because it lifted your spirit. She remembers the way you take your coffee, the story behind your scar, or the exact date you achieved something important. These details may seem small to you, but to her, they are priceless. Why? Because they come from listening with intention, and listening is love in action. Here's the truth. A woman who doesn't love you won't store those details in her memory. She might nod, she might smile, but she won't carry it with her. If you constantly feel forgotten, it's because you were never truly prioritized. But when she recalls the little things, when she surprises you with her memory of what you thought was insignificant, she's sending a powerful message. I see you. I value you. I carry you with me. Never underestimate this. Love lives in the details, and when she remembers them, it means you've carved out a permanent place in her heart. Number 11. She proudly calls you her man. A woman who truly loves you doesn't hesitate to let the world know where she stands. She doesn't hide you behind vague labels like a friend or someone I know. She claims you openly, without fear, without hesitation. And that public acknowledgement matters more than most men realize. When she introduces you as her man, she's drawing a line. She's telling other men that her heart is spoken for, and she's signaling to her circle that you are more than temporary. This isn't just about words, it's about ownership of the relationship. Love isn't ashamed to be seen. But here's the cold truth. If she avoids putting a name to what you are, if she keeps you in the shadows while presenting herself as single to the world, you're not her chosen one. You're her option, her safety net, her convenience. And a man who ignores that reality will end up trapped in a one-sided fantasy. A woman in love doesn't just feel it in private, she confirms it in public. When she says, "This is my man," she's not making a casual remark, she's declaring her loyalty. And in a time where so many people fear commitment, a woman who proudly claims you is revealing just how deeply she's invested. Number 12. She compromises for the relationship. Love is not about one person always getting their way. It's about meeting in the middle. A woman who truly loves you will not stubbornly cling to her pride at the expense of your bond. She's willing to bend, to adjust, and to sacrifice small comforts if it means building something stronger with you. This doesn't mean she abandons her values. Real compromise never asks her to betray who she is at the core. But it does mean she's willing to shift her schedule, reconsider her habits, or even confront her fears, all because she believes the relationship is worth it. That's not weakness, it's strength. It's a sign that her love for you outweighs her desire to always be right. Here's the sharp truth. If she refuses to compromise on anything, then you're not building a partnership. You're stuck in a power struggle. And power struggles don't nurture love. They destroy it. But when a woman chooses to compromise, she's sending you a powerful message. She's saying, I care enough about us to change, to grow, and to put our future above my ego. That's what makes relationships last. Not perfection, but the willingness to adapt together. A woman who compromises for you has proven one thing beyond doubt. She's not just in love with the idea of being with you, she's in love with the reality of building with you. You've just walked through the 12 undeniable signs that reveal whether a woman truly loves you. These aren't abstract theories. They are behavioral truths, actions that speak louder than words. And if you're honest with yourself, you already know where your situation stands. Here's the reality. Love is not hidden. It doesn't make excuses. It doesn't keep you waiting in confusion. And it doesn't leave you second-guessing your worth. If she shows you these 12 signs, you don't have to wonder. You already have your answer. She's invested, she's chosen you, and she's showing it every single day through what she does, not just what she says. But if you notice the opposite, if she hides you, keeps her options open, avoids vulnerability, or refuses to compromise, you need to face the truth. You're not her priority. And the longer you ignore that, the more you risk losing your time, your energy, and your self-respect. This is your wake-up call. Don't chase illusions. Don't settle for being a placeholder in someone else's life. You deserve more than that. And if you've been blessed with a woman who demonstrates most of these signs, then honor that by being the man who matches her loyalty and commitment. Because real love is rare, and when you find it, you don't take it for granted. Now, here's what I want you to do. Take a hard look at your relationship through the lens of these 12 truths. If you see her in them, hold her close. If you don't, it's time to ask yourself why you're still there. And if this message hit you, don't just walk away and forget it. Subscribe right now, because every video here is another weapon for your mind. Tools to help you take back control, protect your heart, and never again settle for less than you deserve. Share this with another man who needs the truth. Leave your thoughts in the comments. And remember, the power in love belongs to the man who sees clearly and acts with strength. She texts you just enough to keep you hooked, cancels plans with a sweet excuse, and still somehow makes you feel guilty for noticing. Sounds familiar? That's not bad luck. That's strategy. You've fallen into the quietest trap in modern dating, being the man she keeps on standby. But here's the twist. It's not her fault you're stuck there. It's yours, because you've been playing by rules that never favored you. If you've ever wondered why women chase one man but forget another, this is your wake-up call. In the next few minutes, I'll give you the 7 psychological steps that make a woman stop taking you for granted and start fighting for your attention. If you've ever been that man waiting for her text, wondering what changed, today is the day you stop waiting and start taking control. Before we move on, hit subscribe, like, and write one simple line in the comments. I'm done being an option. Say it out loud if you have to. That's your first step toward emotional reset. Because what comes next isn't theory. It's the start of your rebuild. And once you understand this first truth, everything about how you show up with women will start to shift. Number 1, read the room. If you've ever caught yourself waiting for her reply that never comes, replaying the same unanswered message on your phone, it's not bad luck. It's a pattern. You're being quietly downgraded. She's not saying it out loud, but every delay, every cancelled plan, every "sorry, got busy" is a silent signal. You're not the priority, you're the placeholder. When a woman's interest fades, she doesn't always leave. Sometimes she keeps you around just enough to feel wanted, without ever giving back the same energy. That's what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. It's when rewards are given inconsistently, just enough to keep you hooked, craving the next moment of affection. It's not love, it's emotional conditioning. The human brain reacts to uncertainty like a drug. Every time she disappears, then suddenly sends a "Hey stranger" text, dopamine spikes. You confuse that high with connection, when really it's dependency. You start chasing that rush, not her, but the illusion of what you thought she felt. And that's how good men stay stuck. Here's the truth most men don't want to face. She doesn't keep you around because she needs you. She keeps you around because she can. Because you haven't shown her that your absence costs something. You're available, predictable, and replaceable. The perfect emotional safety net. And let's be honest, you've probably told yourself she's just busy, or that she'll come around. That's not optimism, that's denial. Every time you excuse her behavior, you teach her it's acceptable. Every time you stay, you tell her you'll tolerate being plan B. Reading the room isn't about being bitter or playing hard to get. It's about clarity. It's the moment you stop negotiating your worth with someone who's already discounted it. So ask yourself, is she making space for you or just keeping you in storage? If she's treating you like a background character in her story, then it's time you stop auditioning for a lead role. Number 2, the law of reciprocity. In every connection, Romantic, professional, or social, value only exists when energy flows both ways. The moment you start pouring more than you receive, the balance breaks and respect collapses. Most men don't realize it until it's too late. When you keep showing up for someone who doesn't reciprocate, you stop being desirable and start being convenient. Reciprocity isn't some poetic concept, it's behavioral economics. When she gives less and still gets your full attention, her brain registers one thing. Your effort has no price. She learns that she doesn't need to try. She can give you crumbs and still get a feast of validation in return. That's not attraction. That's conditioning her to undervalue you. Think about the last time you texted first, apologized first, adjusted your schedule first, all while she gave the bare minimum. That's not generosity. That's self-neglect, dressed as kindness. Every time you reach out first, you're rewarding low effort. Every time you accept the imbalance, you're teaching her how little it takes to keep you around. If love is a currency, stop trading gold for her breadcrumbs. Your attention, time, and emotional energy are assets, not donations. The more you give them away without a return, the faster they lose their worth. Here's what psychology says. People mirror behavior that benefits them. When you stop over-investing, one of two things will happen. She'll either step up to match your energy, or she'll drift away because the free supply is gone. Either way, you win. You regain clarity. Pulling back isn't about punishment, it's about recalibration. You're not withdrawing love, you're re-establishing value. When your availability stops being guaranteed, she's forced to re-evaluate what your presence actually means. That's the shift. Remember this truth. Every time you reward low effort, you're reinforcing the behavior that made you feel small in the first place. Reciprocity isn't about ego. It's about emotional economy. When both sides invest fairly, respect compounds. When one side overpays, connection dies in debt. So from now on, don't beg for balance. Create it. Number 3, you come first. Here's something most men never realize until they've already lost themselves. The moment you start orbiting around her, you begin to fade from her sight. A man who builds his world around a woman eventually becomes invisible in it. You stop being magnetic and start being manageable. And once you're manageable, you're forgettable. Women aren't drawn to men who chase them. They're drawn to men who chase purpose. There's a psychological principle behind it. Self-orbit attraction. When a man radiates direction, focus, and internal gravity, people naturally align around him. But when he gives up that center, when his emotional balance depends on her attention, the polarity collapses. You stop being a man she's intrigued by and start being one she controls. Think of it like this. She's not the sun and you're not a planet in her orbit. You are your own gravity. Every goal you chase, every boundary you set, every decision you make, those are the elements that create your field. And that field either pulls people in or repels those who don't belong there. You want her to notice you again. Don't text more. Don't prove harder. Build stronger. Invest in your health, your ambition, your mission. Not for her, but because those things remind you of who you are when you're not seeking approval. That energy, the quiet, unbothered certainty, is what creates attraction. It signals value without words. Women subconsciously read social proof. When they sense that your world is full, that you're fulfilled, respected, desired, they feel an instinctive pull. It's not manipulation. It's magnetism. The same way people gather around a fire, not because the fire asks them to, but because it burns on its own. So stop orbiting her. Reclaim your gravity. You were never meant to revolve around someone's moods or schedules. The moment you step back into your own axis, that's when she notices the space you've created and the silence that used to belong to her. Because here's the paradox of attraction. The second she realizes you're fulfilled without her, that's when she starts chasing your attention. Number 4, the novelty factor. Predictability kills desire, not instantly, but slowly, like oxygen leaving a room. When a woman already knows what you'll say, when you'll reply, and how you'll react, you stop being a person she's drawn to and start being a pattern she's memorized. And the human brain doesn't crave what it already understands. It craves surprise. Psychologists call it habituation. It means the more familiar a stimulus becomes, the weaker the emotional response. The same joke stops being funny. The same touch stops feeling electric. The same conversation stops being exciting. You're not boring. You've just become predictable. Here's the part most men don't get. She's not losing interest because you did something wrong. She's losing interest because she can see your next move before you make it. When every reply comes instantly, every invitation feels expected, and every action follows a script, there's no tension left to pull her in. You don't have to disappear or play games. What you need is pattern disruption. Create moments that make her pause. Moments where she can't quite read you. Take a few hours before replying. End a conversation on your own terms. Try something new, unexpected, and unannounced. Do it not to provoke her, but to remind yourself that your time and energy have rhythm, not permanence. A man who is easy to read is easy to forget, but a man who carries an element of mystery, not secrecy, but depth, activates a different part of her brain. Dopamine spikes when the outcome is uncertain. She starts checking your profile, rereading messages, replaying your tone in her head. You've stopped being a script and become a story again. Mystery isn't manipulation. It's magnetic tension. It's the subtle art of keeping her curious, keeping her invested. The more she wonders, the more she feels. And that curiosity fuels attraction far stronger than validation ever could. So never let her feel like she solved you. Be the man she's still trying to figure out, not the one she's already defined. Predictability makes her comfortable. Unpredictability makes her intrigued. And between comfort and curiosity, desire will always choose curiosity. Number 5. Be the prize. The more accessible something is, the less it's valued. That's not cynicism. That's psychology. Scarcity bias, a proven behavioral truth, states that people assign higher worth to what feels limited. So when your time, attention, and emotional energy are always available, they stop being meaningful. You become a constant, and constants are invisible. When a woman knows she can reach you anytime, she stops reaching with intention. When she knows you'll answer immediately, she stops crafting her words carefully. When she knows you'll always forgive, she stops fearing the loss. That's not confidence on her part. It's conditioning on yours. Being the prize doesn't mean acting superior. It means understanding that your value is determined by how selectively you share yourself. You don't need to announce it. You simply adjust your behavior. You reply when you actually have the time. You share less, not because you're hiding, but because you've learned the difference between intimacy and exposure. A treasure loses its value when it's left in the open. What's rare feels sacred. What's constant feels common. When you become emotionally scarce, when you stop broadcasting your availability, she begins to feel your absence. And the human brain reacts to absence with curiosity, even anxiety. That's loss aversion in motion. We feel the pain of losing something twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining it. So when she senses that your attention is no longer guaranteed, her instincts awaken. She replays your last conversation. She starts to wonder if someone else has your focus now. It's not about jealousy. It's about recalibration. She's realizing your presence had a weight, and she took it for granted. The less she knows about what's next, the more she'll want to find out. That's not playing games. That's allowing space for tension to breathe. You're not punishing her with silence. You're reminding her that your energy is earned, not entitled. When your time and attention become rare, her interest becomes real. Because attraction isn't built on abundance, it's built on anticipation. And when you finally give her your focus again, it won't feel casual. It'll feel like a reward. Number 6, draw the line. Respect doesn't come from what you tolerate. It comes from what you refuse to. Every relationship, whether romantic or not, is a negotiation of boundaries, the invisible lines that teach others how to treat you. When those lines blur, connection turns into convenience, and the person who refuses to set standards becomes the one everyone tests. Let's be clear. Boundaries aren't ultimatums. They're not threats, demands, or emotional walls. They're quiet declarations of self-worth. When you draw the line, you're not saying, "Don't cross me." You're saying, "This is the level of access my peace requires." It's not about control. It's about clarity. Take something simple. She cancels plans for the 3rd time. Most men respond emotionally. They argue, chase, or beg. But strength isn't in the reaction. It's in the restraint. Silence, distance, and consistency communicate far more than confrontation ever will. When your energy stops being reactive, your absence starts speaking louder than your words. Psychologists call it psychological reactance. When someone senses they're losing freedom, they instinctively desire what's slipping away. So when you withdraw calmly, not out of anger, but out of self-respect, she starts to feel that shift. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer waiting. You've drawn a line. And suddenly, she has to decide if she's willing to step back across it. A man without boundaries is like a door that never closes. Easy to enter, easier to leave. Every time you let someone cross your limits without consequence, you're not being kind. You're being complicit in your own neglect. Here's the truth most men never learn. Consistency builds credibility. When your boundaries stay firm, your presence starts to mean something again. People, including her, respect what they can't manipulate. So next time she pushes, don't explain your worth. Show it. Don't argue your standards. Enforce them quietly. The power isn't in telling her what you'll no longer accept. It's in showing her that you mean it. When she knows your standards, she'll rise to meet them or step aside. Either outcome protects your peace. And that's how boundaries stop being rules and start becoming respect. 7. Show her what she could lose. Every man wants to be wanted, but few understand the difference between being wanted and being needed. The first is temporary, based on attention, novelty, or charm. The second is deeper, built on the kind of value that can't be replicated once it's gone. Irreplaceability isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about becoming the man whose absence echoes louder than his words ever did. So how do you reach that point? By becoming whole, not dependent, not performative, but anchored. Irreplaceable men share 3 traits: emotional depth, stability, and vision. They don't chase connection. They create gravity. They bring clarity to chaos, calm to intensity, and purpose to uncertainty. That's what makes a woman pause before she walks away. Because deep down, she knows she may find someone new, but she won't find this. When you offer emotional depth, you give her safety. When you embody stability, you become her peace. And when you have vision, when you're building something greater than the relationship itself, you become her inspiration. Those 3 things form the foundation of masculine energy that can't be duplicated. Every woman remembers the man who made her feel safe and slightly scared to lose him. Not because he threatened to leave, but because his presence carried weight. He didn't need to prove his worth. He lived it. His silence spoke louder than any declaration. His focus made her realize she was part of something rare. You don't win her by proving you're the best. You win her by being the one she can't forget. The one who touched her life with certainty, not need. When you operate from abundance, not scarcity, you stop competing with other men entirely. You exist in a category of your own. And here's the paradox of power. The moment she realizes losing you would mean losing her balance, that's when you've become the priority. Because true influence doesn't come from chasing attention. It comes from embodying value so solid that attention chases you. That's the man she doesn't play games with. That's the man she rethinks everything for. And that's the man you're becoming. You started this video wondering why she treats you like an option. Why you feel like the man she calls when she's bored, but forgets when she's busy. Now you know the truth. It was never just about her choices. It was about your boundaries, your energy, and what you taught her to expect. Because in every relationship, spoken or not, you're teaching people how to value you. Every unanswered message you accept, every cancelled plan you forgive without consequence, every time you overextend to prove your worth, you write the script of how you'll be treated. And the good news? You can rewrite it anytime. You don't need to chase, convince, or negotiate for attention. You only need to remember this. You teach people how to value you by the way you value yourself. When you start showing up like a man who knows his worth, you won't have to demand respect. It will arrive uninvited. Look back at where you began, the guy who waited for her texts, who accepted uncertainty as affection. That man doesn't exist anymore. You've learned to read the room, balance reciprocity, and reclaim your gravity. You've discovered that mystery isn't manipulation, it's magnetic. You've drawn lines that protect your peace and built presence that commands attention. Now, you're not the guy she calls when she's bored. You're the man she can't stop thinking about. The one whose silence says more than his words ever could. The one whose absence feels heavier than his presence ever did. And remember this, when you know your worth, silence becomes your weapon, distance becomes your language, and scarcity becomes your power. You're not being cold, you're being clear. If this message hit you hard, it's because you needed to hear it. Don't just listen to it. Live it. Walk with it. Let it reshape the way you show up in every connection you have. Subscribe to this channel because here we don't chase approval. We study psychology, master energy, and reclaim emotional power. I'll see you in the next one. She doesn't confess because you confront her. She confesses when you stop reacting. The truth doesn't leak under pressure. It leaks under calm. Every man who's ever begged for honesty made the same mistake. He thought intensity would bring clarity. It never does. The louder you ask, the quieter the truth becomes. But there's a method, a psychological rhythm, that makes a woman reveal more than she planned to. It's not about being harsh. It's about being unreadable. In the next few minutes, I'll show you how silence, awareness, and emotional control work together to expose what words can't hide. Because once she feels you've detached, her truth becomes her only way back in. Have you ever noticed how her version of events always sounds reasonable? Not exaggerated, not emotional, just reasonable enough to make you doubt your instincts. That's the art of perception control, the most subtle form of manipulation there is. See, women rarely lie to deceive. They lie to stabilize, to protect how you see them, to keep the emotional atmosphere safe, and to make sure they don't lose leverage. A woman's truth is always filtered through emotional safety. It's not about facts. It's about preservation. When she senses tension, when she feels your tone shift or your presence tighten, her brain doesn't say, "I'm about to lie." It says, "I need to protect the peace." That peace isn't about harmony. It's about control. She wants to manage your emotional reaction before you even realize you're reacting. Imagine this. You ask, "Where were you last night?" She looks you dead in the eye and says, "I was just with some friends, nothing serious." Soft voice, calm tone, perfect pacing. Every piece of that answer was designed, not to deceive, but to contain. Because the truth isn't about what happened. The truth is about what she wants you to feel. That's why her words sound so clean, so logical. They're built like armor. Every sentence, every gesture, every pause is calculated to keep you where she wants you, uncertain, but not suspicious. You'll sense something is off, but you won't know why. You'll feel a dissonance between what she said and what your gut knows. And that's the exact space she needs to maintain her control. Here's the real psychology behind it. When a woman feels emotionally cornered, she doesn't fight. She redirects. She rewrites the moment to make you question your perception instead of her honesty. It's an instinctive form of narrative protection, the same mechanism that allows her to soothe, manipulate, and survive simultaneously. So when you hear her answer and it sounds perfectly balanced, perfectly convenient, don't just listen, observe. Notice how her tone is too calm for the context. Notice how she smiles when she shouldn't. Notice how her eyes shift, not with guilt, but with calculation. She's not lying to you. She's managing your perception. And as long as she believes you're still operating in the dark, still trying to understand her instead of reading her, she'll keep doing it. Because it works. Because you make it easy. Because she knows you're focused on what she says, not why she's saying it. The illusion of honesty isn't built on lies. It's built on your blindness to emotional strategy. If you want the truth, you have to first change what she perceives you already know. Because the moment she thinks you're aware, the entire narrative starts to crack. Women don't tell the truth because you demand it. They tell it when they believe you already know. That's the quiet rule of feminine psychology. Honesty isn't a moral choice. It's a safety mechanism. When she senses you're naive, she edits reality. When she senses you're aware, she edits herself. You see, perception is leverage. The person who appears more conscious of the unspoken dynamic always holds control. Most men fail here. They show their confusion, they chase for clarification, they let their tone reveal uncertainty. Every question, every emotional reaction tells her exactly how much she can hide. But when your energy changes, when you stop chasing details and start observing patterns, the game shifts. She begins to feel it. Not because you said something clever, but because your silence, your posture, your focus all communicate one message. I see through this. Women are hypersensitive to perception. It's an evolutionary trait. Reading emotional cues was survival. So when you stop acting reactive, her brain can't predict your next move. That uncertainty unnerves her. She doesn't know what you've seen or what you've figured out. And that's when the walls start to crack. Try this once. When she gives an answer that doesn't sit right, don't confront it. Don't demand proof. Just pause. Let your eyes rest on her longer than she expects. Tilt your head slightly, as if you've connected something. Then say calmly, "You don't need to explain. I already see what's going on." That sentence alone rewires the conversation. You've just flipped the power dynamic without raising your voice. You've made her subconscious panic. Not out of guilt, but out of uncertainty. Because suddenly, she realizes she's not leading the narrative anymore. You are. The psychological term is anticipatory compliance. When someone believes another person holds hidden information, they unconsciously reveal more than intended to protect themselves. she'll start softening her tone, filling the silence with details you didn't ask for, even correcting herself mid-sentence. She's trying to close the gap between what she said and what she thinks you know. That's the invisible shift you need to master. You don't win the truth by confrontation. You win it by changing the environment in which deception feels unsafe. And here's the thing most men never understand. When a woman feels you already see her, she loses the emotional incentive to hide. Because the lie no longer gives her power, it exposes her weakness. So the next time you sense dishonesty, don't react. Don't seek confirmation. Just act like the man who already knows. Watch how quickly her story rearranges itself in real time. The moment she senses you already know, her lies start to collapse on their own. That's the quiet dominance of awareness. No aggression, no threats, just presence. But awareness means nothing if you don't know how to weaponize silence. Men talk to find answers. Women talk to hide them. That's not cynicism. It's behavioral psychology. When emotions run high, men look for logic. Women look for control. And words are their control mechanism. The more they speak, the more they can redirect attention, redefine tone, rebuild safety. That's why the man who learns to be silent becomes the most dangerous one in the room. Silence makes people confront their own truth. It's a mirror, and most can't handle their reflection. Here's what happens inside her mind when you stop talking. Cognitive dissonance. Her brain hates the emptiness. The stillness feels like exposure, as if your silence is stripping away her story. So she fills the gap. With words, with nervous laughter, with unnecessary explanations. That's when the cracks start showing. Imagine this moment. You ask her something once, calm, steady, clear. Then you stop. No sighs, no frowns, no repeated questions. Just presence. The pause stretches longer than she expects. Seconds feel like minutes. She starts to feel your silence pressing against her skin. And then she speaks again, softer, quicker, correcting herself. That's not conversation. That's confession. Most men ruin their leverage by breaking the silence first. They can't handle the discomfort. They think persistence equals strength. It doesn't. Persistence is loud insecurity. Power, in its purest form, is restraint. When you stay quiet, your silence becomes a pressure cooker. It amplifies everything she's trying to hide. The more she senses you're unbothered, the more she feels exposed. Because she can't read you. And that unknown is terrifying to someone who survives by reading emotion. Silence also signals something primal. Emotional detachment. It tells her you're not desperate for reassurance. You're not waiting for her validation. You're simply watching, evaluating, choosing what to believe. That's when she starts revealing the truth. Not because you demanded it, but because your silence forced her to face it. And it's subtle. It's not about making her uncomfortable for sport. It's about letting her run out of scripts. Every manipulative narrative relies on dialogue, on your participation. Once you stop feeding it, it dies. Your silence breaks her performance. Your composure exposes her inconsistencies. Your calmness makes her panic. This is the paradox. You don't get honesty by chasing it. You get it by holding still long enough for it to surface. Because silence isn't weakness. It's the sound of a man who already knows. And when she starts talking too much, that's where the next truth hides, buried inside the overflow of her own words. She suddenly gives you a full timeline, even when you didn't ask. Where she went, who was there, what time she left, what she wore, every small detail delivered with perfect precision. It sounds honest, it sounds open, but it's not clarity, it's camouflage. That's the paradox of deception. Guilty people over-communicate. Because when someone's telling the truth, they speak simply, they answer directly, they don't perform. But when someone is hiding something, They start building a cushion of words, a verbal fog dense enough to make you lose focus. Psychologically, this is called information flooding. It's an unconscious defense mechanism triggered by fear of exposure. When her brain senses threat, the possibility that you've noticed something, it scrambles to build narrative control. The logic is simple. The more context she gives, the less you'll notice the core inconsistency. And it works on the untrained ear. That's why your role isn't to listen harder, it's to listen smarter. Here's how you do it. When she talks too much, stop tracking the details and start tracking the distance. How far her words are drifting from the question you asked. If her story doubles back, loops around, or adds random justification, she's not explaining. She's distracting. That's your red flag. You'll notice microtells too. Her tone will shift between calm and defensive. She'll smile too long, fill silence with, "You know what I mean," or overshare about things that don't matter. She's not opening up. She's buying time. Every unnecessary detail is an emotional bandage trying to cover a wound she doesn't want you to see. So, instead of confronting her mid-sentence, just nod. Let her finish the monologue. Then repeat her main point back to her, short, cold, stripped of fluff. "So you're saying you just went there, talked for a bit, and came home." You'll feel it, the tension drop in her voice, the hesitation that follows. Because your summary just killed her cushion. The truth has nowhere left to hide. Here's what most men miss. You're not in a conversation. You're in a narrative negotiation. The more she talks, the more information she leaks. But your power is in what you don't respond to. Every time you let her drown in her own words, you give her enough rope to hang the lie herself. So listen differently. Not to what she's saying, to what she's avoiding. If her answers get longer than your question, she's building a wall, not a bridge. Guilt always speaks in paragraphs. Honesty speaks in sentences. And if you can hear that difference, you're already holding the power she's trying to protect. But the real shift happens when you change the frame of the entire conversation. Most men beg for honesty. Leaders command clarity. That single difference changes everything. Because the moment you ask for honesty, you've already surrendered emotional power. You're admitting that your peace depends on her truth, and that gives her the upper hand. She now controls the tempo, the tone, and the tension. You've made her the gatekeeper of your calm. Think about it. When you say, "I just need to know the truth," you're not being strong. You're confessing attachment. You're saying, "My sense of self depends on your validation." And that's the perfect cue for her to tighten her control. But when you shift the frame, everything changes. You stop playing defense and start setting the emotional terms of engagement. Instead of needing the truth, you define the conversation around clarity. You're not begging, you're assessing. You're not reacting, you're observing. You're showing her, silently, that you have the emotional stability to move with or without her cooperation. Say it once, calmly. "I don't need to argue. I just need clarity to move accordingly." That line lands harder than any accusation, because what she hears underneath isn't threat, it's detachment. It tells her, "You no longer control how I feel." That's when the panic starts, because every manipulative dynamic thrives on your emotional dependence. When she realizes she's lost that anchor, she starts reaching. She re-explains, reframes, backtracks, desperate to regain narrative control. You'll notice it in her body language. The pause before she answers, the sudden softness in her tone, the searching eyes trying to gauge how much you know. You haven't raised your voice or changed your expression, but you've changed the entire ecosystem of communication. The psychological principle is called frame control. In any human interaction, the one who defines the frame defines the reality. And when you hold your frame, calm, clear, detached, her manipulative scripts start to fail. She can no longer pull you into her emotional rhythm. You're outside the game, watching it play out. That's why the most powerful men aren't the ones who argue well. They're the ones who refuse to participate in emotional tug-of-war. They don't chase truth. They make truth chase them. When you reach that level, you stop reacting to lies because they can't survive in your presence. You've removed the oxygen of emotional tension. And without that, manipulation suffocates. So remember this. Clarity isn't something you get from her. It's something you create for yourself. Once she senses that, she realizes something deeper. She's not the one holding power anymore. And once you emotionally detach, she has nothing left to hold on to. The more you care, the less honest she becomes. Not because she's cruel, but because your emotions give her a mirror. And she's learned how to use it. Women read emotion like a second language. They feel the tension in your silence, the tremor in your voice, the hesitation behind your words. And once she senses that her truth affects your peace, she learns something dangerous. Your feelings are her leverage. This is where most men lose control. They confuse love with surrender. They think caring deeply means reacting quickly. But emotional exposure isn't connection. It's currency. And once she knows you'll trade peace for answers, she'll never stop testing how far she can push the exchange. Emotional detachment changes that completely. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop depending. You stop letting her emotional storms dictate your internal weather. You become the eye of the hurricane, calm, steady, unmoved, while everything around you spins. Here's what happens next. When you detach, her control mechanisms fail. She can't provoke you with silence. She can't guilt you with tears. She can't manipulate you with confusion. Because now, every emotional tool she's ever used lands flat against your composure. And that stillness terrifies her. Because a woman's emotional influence depends on reaction. When she loses that feedback loop, when her words no longer trigger you, she feels invisible. And invisibility to a woman means loss of power. So she does what every human does when they feel power slipping away. She reaches for truth. She starts explaining herself. She starts clarifying unasked questions. She confesses, not because she wants to, but because she's trying to re-establish connection through honesty. Her truth becomes her peace offering. It's not manipulation anymore, it's instinct. Because when your emotions no longer belong to her, she must rebuild trust the only way she can, by being real. That's why emotional detachment is the ultimate lie detector. It creates silence without saying a word. It makes dishonesty uncomfortable, transparency inevitable. It forces her to face herself, not through confrontation, but through your calm. Detachment is not coldness, it's awareness without attachment. You're not punishing her, you're protecting your peace. You're showing that your value doesn't rise or fall with her approval. And in that moment, something profound happens. She finally sees what you've known all along. When you stop needing the truth, she finally tells it. Because that's not manipulation. It's emotional awareness. It's the quiet mastery of a man who doesn't chase honesty because his presence demands it. You don't get the truth by chasing it. You get it by becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to. Because when you finally understand the psychology behind her words, the safety, the control, the emotional choreography, everything changes. You stop reacting to what she says and start observing what she protects. You stop being led by confusion and start leading through clarity. Let's take a moment to remember what you've learned here. You now understand why she bends the truth, not to deceive, but to maintain control. You've learned that awareness, not aggression, exposes the lie. You've mastered silence, the invisible mirror where truth reveals itself. You can now hear guilt inside over-explanation and calm inside sincerity. You've learned how to shift the entire frame, taking back control of your emotional narrative. And above all, you've seen that the highest form of power is detachment, because nothing exposes truth faster than indifference to it. That's the transformation. You move from the man who demands honesty to the man who commands it. You stop chasing reassurance and you start leading the dynamic. You stop reacting to emotional chaos and you begin to set the temperature of every room you walk into. That's the difference between being emotionally reactive and being emotionally sovereign. Between playing her game and mastering your own. So the next time you sense something off, don't panic, don't press, don't plead. Just breathe. Watch. Stay silent. Because she'll either tell you the truth or she'll expose it trying to hide it. You don't force the truth out of a woman. You evolve into the man she can't lie to. And if this message hit you, don't just watch, learn, subscribe, comment your story below, and share this with a man who still chases answers instead of control. Because in this game, truth isn't spoken, it's revealed. You think she left because she fell out of love. No, she left because she stopped feeling your strength. Every relationship has a hidden economy. Power and respect are the currency. The moment you stop leading, you start losing value. And it doesn't matter how much you provide, protect, or please. Once she senses weakness, attraction dies. In this video, I'll reveal the 10 most dangerous mistakes men make that cause this silent shift. These aren't random, they're psychological. And if you don't fix them, love turns into labor, and you'll end up working for a woman who doesn't even admire you. Every man deserves a reset, a chance to stop repeating the same emotional cycle and start leading again. If that's your goal, hit like, tap, subscribe, and comment one word below. Rebuild. Write it as a promise to yourself, not to anyone else. Because what we're diving into next isn't theory. It's the first step toward reclaiming the leadership you lost without even noticing. Number 1. The most dangerous mistake a man can make is mistaking love for labor. You think carrying the weight of everything means you're a good partner, that fixing, providing, and solving will earn her peace and loyalty. But here's the truth. If she's not cooperating, you're not in a relationship. You're in a one-man business that's slowly killing your energy. Picture this. You handle the bills, the plans, the emotional crises, even the smallest details. And she critiques, corrects, or simply scrolls while you burn yourself out trying to keep things running. You keep hoping she'll eventually notice your effort. But women don't respect exhaustion. They respect balance. When you do everything, you erase the need for her to contribute. You condition her to depend, not to partner. In psychology, this is called learned helplessness. When one side always carries, the other stops learning how. A woman without a teamwork mindset isn't cruel, she's conditioned. Society rewards women for receiving, not for building alongside. But as a man, if you accept that dynamic, you'll drown in silent resentment. The moment you start carrying her responsibilities, you stop leading and start serving. A healthy connection isn't about one person fixing while the other complains. It's about two people rowing in rhythm toward the same direction. The second she drops her oar, the boat starts spinning in circles, and so does your peace. Remember this: a relationship without mutual effort isn't partnership. It's emotional employment. And if she won't work with you, she's not building a life. She's borrowing yours. Number 2, you can't build something new with someone who's still haunted by what came before you. Most men don't realize this until it's too late, until they're trapped in a relationship where every moment feels like a comparison test they never signed up for. You meet her, she's charming, confident, says she knows what she wants. But as time passes, her words start to sound like echoes. Be more romantic. Be more dominant. Be more like... She never finishes the sentence, but you can hear the ghost in her tone. What she's really saying is, recreate the men who left their mark on me. That's not love. That's programming. Psychologically, every deep connection imprints emotional fingerprints. When a woman has had too many, too fast, too intense, she becomes less impressionable. Her responses aren't born in the present. They're triggered from memory. You can't teach her your rhythm because she's still dancing to someone else's beat. And here's where men lose themselves. They try harder. They adjust. They overperform. They chase after an invisible standard that was never meant for them, until one day they realize they've been auditioning for a role already played. Understand this clearly. You can't rewrite her past by performing better in her present. You're not her fresh start. You're her sequel. And sequels rarely end well. The right woman doesn't need you to compete with her history. She's ready to create a new one with you. And that's the difference between a woman who's still comparing and a woman who's still capable of being impressed. Number 3, peace at any price is the most expensive deal you'll ever make. Every man who's been in love has done it, swallowing his words, softening his truth, agreeing just to keep the calm. You tell yourself it's maturity, emotional intelligence, maybe even love. But deep down, you know you're not keeping peace. You're buying silence. Every time you fold when your values are tested, you make a silent trade, her comfort for your respect. And the moment she senses that pattern, she'll test you again, not out of cruelty, but instinct. Psychology calls it dominance testing, the subconscious way people check if their partner still has strength behind their softness. Fail the test enough times, and she'll stop seeing you as a leader. She'll start seeing you as a follower with good intentions. Women don't lose interest because men disagree. They lose interest because men dissolve. When you bend too much, you stop being a partner and start being an accessory. An emotional cushion, not a man with direction. True compromise isn't surrender. It's alignment. It's two people meeting at a middle ground that still honors both sides' integrity. But when you're the only one doing the bending, the relationship isn't balanced. It's built on your fear of conflict. And fear never earns respect. So next time you feel that urge to give in just to keep things easy, pause. Ask yourself, am I protecting peace or just avoiding tension? If it's the second, understand this. She may smile today, but she's already losing attraction tomorrow. Because no woman can truly follow a man who doesn't lead. Number 4, a woman who worships one trait will neglect all the others. Maybe she's obsessed with her kindness, but careless with her appearance. Or maybe she's flawless on the outside, yet her empathy is starving. Either way, imbalance is rot that starts slow. And by the time you notice, attraction is already dying. This happens because most people build identity through what psychologists call selective validation. They choose one quality to overdevelop, usually the one that earns them the most praise, while neglecting the rest. She tells herself she's a good person, so she doesn't need to stay disciplined, curious, or feminine. Or she convinces herself that beauty alone is currency enough to buy loyalty. The result? A woman who's lopsided, appealing in one area, hollow in another. You fall for her charm, but you end up dating her imbalance. Healthy relationships thrive on multidimensional attraction, intellect, warmth, physical connection, shared discipline. When any of these is missing, polarity fades. You start feeling like roommates, not lovers. It's not that she's evil or lazy. She's unbalanced, and imbalance always leaks energy. You can't build harmony with someone who refuses to maintain equilibrium within herself. Because when she stops valuing the full spectrum, her mind, her presence, her emotional control, she won't value yours either. So stop rewarding imbalance. Stop calling it depth when it's just neglect wearing perfume. The woman who keeps herself whole, mentally, emotionally, physically, is rare, but she's the only kind worth building with. Remember, attraction doesn't disappear by accident. It dies the moment balance does. Number 5. Boundaries aren't insecurity, they're protection. Too many men have been conditioned to believe that setting limits makes them controlling. So they say nothing when their woman keeps a circle of just friends. Men who text late, compliment often, and wait silently for an opportunity. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Attention is a form of currency, and women know its value. Every message, every like, every "you look amazing" gives her a dopamine hit. The more she receives, the less she values yours. That's not jealousy, that's neuroscience. Psychologists call it the external validation loop. It's the cycle where a person becomes addicted to outside approval to feel worthy. When that happens, no matter how loyal you are, you'll always be competing against her audience. You'll give her love, they'll give her novelty, and novelty always wins when boundaries don't exist. You can't build intimacy in a room full of witnesses. Every extra man she allows into her emotional orbit dilutes your influence. What starts as friendly support can quietly evolve into emotional triangulation. She begins comparing you to them, quoting their opinions, even borrowing their validation to measure yours. That's how respect starts to fade. Not because she stopped loving you, but because she started entertaining too many options that keep her ego fed and her standards unfocused. Set boundaries early, not out of fear, but out of principle. Make it clear that emotional exclusivity matters just as much as physical loyalty. Because if her attention is a public resource, your relationship is public property. You don't need to control her. You just need to protect the space where loyalty actually lives. In focus, in restraint, and in respect. Number 6. Men don't stop caring because they're cold. They stop because nothing ever gets solved. It starts small. A few complaints here and there. Then it becomes constant. Every conversation turns into a venting session. You listen, you try to fix things, but the same topics return like a broken record. And eventually, you realize she doesn't want resolution. She wants release. In psychology, that's called emotional looping, when someone keeps expressing frustration without ever identifying a root cause. It gives temporary relief, like scratching an itch that never heals. But for the person listening, it's emotional suffocation. Men are natural problem solvers. They connect through purpose. When there's no clear problem to solve, the mind shuts down to protect itself. That's why you stop feeling, not out of indifference, but out of survival. A woman who complains without clarity trains you to disengage. Slowly, your emotional reflex fades. You start going quiet. You say less. And she interprets that silence as detachment, not realizing she created it. The longer this cycle continues, the weaker the bond becomes. Because connection can't exist without direction. You can't repair noise. You can only step away from it. What you need is communication with intention. Calm, focused, solution-oriented. If she's unwilling to meet you there, you owe it to yourself to protect your peace. Remember, love isn't about endless talking. It's about solving, growing, and evolving together. And if every conversation ends in chaos, it's not a connection. It's emotional clutter. So when the noise gets louder than the love, choose silence, not as retreat, but as self-respect. Number 7. Love without respect is slow poison. It doesn't kill you overnight. It erodes you quietly. Every time you let her speak over you, mock your values, or test your patience without consequence, a piece of your self-worth dissolves. You tell yourself she still loves you. Maybe she does. But here's the truth. Love can coexist with disrespect, and when it does, it's lethal. Men often chase affection like it's proof of value. You crave her warmth, her words, her attention. And in that craving, you ignore the absence of respect. You think love is enough to fix it. It never is. Respect is the spine of attraction. Without it, love collapses into chaos. Psychologists call this dominance testing, a subconscious behavior where one partner pushes limits to measure the other's strength. When a man keeps forgiving disrespect, she stops believing in his boundaries. Once that belief is gone, attraction fades. Because deep down, every woman wants to feel the presence of stability, a man who stands firm, even when emotions rise. You can't build loyalty on love alone. Love is emotional. Respect is rational. Love fluctuates with mood, but respect endures through storms. That's why a woman may stop loving a man for a moment, but she'll never betray one she truly respects. Ask yourself, does she follow your lead because she trusts you, or because she pities your persistence? If she doesn't see your boundaries, she'll eventually look past you. You don't need to demand respect. You need to embody it. When you stop tolerating disrespect disguised as passion, something changes. She either steps up or walks away. Either way, you win, because you finally chose yourself over her approval. Number 8. You don't fit into her life by erasing yours. It begins with good intentions. She wants more, and you want to provide it. So you start adjusting, stretching, overworking, convincing yourself it's love. But what you're really doing is rewriting your entire existence to fit someone else's expectations. And the moment you do, you stop being a man she admires and become a man she manages. Many men fall into this trap when dating women whose lifestyles outpace their reality. They start chasing upgrades, new clothes, better car, fancier restaurants, not because they need them, but because she does. It's the illusion of compatibility through consumption. But beneath that shine lies anxiety, resentment, and exhaustion. You're no longer leading your life. You're financing someone else's fantasy. From a psychological standpoint, this is identity erosion. The man's sense of self begins to dissolve as he attaches his worth to what he can provide. And the irony? The more you give, the less she values it. Because abundance without boundaries breeds entitlement, not gratitude. The right woman adapts to your reality, not demands a new one. She doesn't need you to change your pace. She learns to walk beside you. But the wrong one will always measure love in upgrades, not effort. So before you bend, ask yourself, if everything stopped tomorrow, the money, the pace, the attention, would she still stay? If the answer isn't clear, it's not love. It's leverage. And leverage always breaks when the pressure rises. Because when she only loves your lifestyle, she's not in love with you. She's in love with what you can maintain. Number 9. Some women never stop dating. They just take breaks. You meet her when she's between upgrades. She's charming, magnetic, knows what she wants, or at least what she thinks she deserves. She's been conditioned to believe there's always something better, just one conversation away. And if you don't recognize that early, you'll end up loving someone who's always halfway out the door. This behavior has a name: hypergamy. It's not evil, it's instinct. The drive to seek the best possible option. But when that instinct isn't managed, it becomes addiction. Comparison becomes her drug of choice, and the highs of new attention make commitment feel dull by contrast. She craves the thrill of being chosen, over and over again, not the comfort of staying chosen. Psychologically, this is a form of dopamine dependency. Each new admirer resets her reward system, making stability feel like boredom. And you, no matter how loyal, grounded, or patient, can't compete with her craving for the next emotional spike. You'll see it in the small things, The subtle flirting, the endless scrolling, the casual curiosity about what else is out there. She'll tell you she loves you, but her behavior will say she's still searching. And the most dangerous part, she doesn't even realize she's doing it. You can't outgive hypergamy, you can't outperform it. The only cure is self-awareness. And that has to come from her, not you. So stop trying to prove you're the best option. The right woman doesn't need convincing. She's already decided. Because when she's done chasing upgrades, she starts building legacy. Until then, you're just the stop between who she was and who she hopes to attract next. Number 10. Forgiveness doesn't rebuild trust. It buries self-respect. Men often mistake forgiveness for strength. You tell yourself you're being mature, taking the high road, showing emotional control. But what you're really doing is teaching her that betrayal comes without consequence. And when consequences disappear, respect follows right behind them. You think forgiving her will restore peace. It won't. It will only reset the cycle. Because forgiveness without accountability doesn't heal anything. It rewires you to tolerate pain longer. You'll start rationalizing what should never be repeated. You'll call it patience, when it's really denial. In psychology, this is called avoidance coping. It's the mind's way of avoiding loss by surrendering standards. You'd rather absorb the pain than face the finality of walking away. But every time you excuse her behavior, you erode the foundation of what makes you a leader: clarity, consequence, and consistency. The brutal truth? Once trust is broken, love changes form. It becomes guarded, distorted, transactional. You'll smile, but it'll be mechanical. You'll touch, but it'll feel hollow. And in the silence between moments, you'll hear it. The echo of what you forgave but never forgot. Forgiveness only has power when paired with transformation. If she's truly remorseful, she'll rebuild what she broke. If she's not, you're just participating in your own decline. You can't heal where the wound keeps reopening. Sometimes the strongest move isn't to stay and repair, it's to leave and rebuild yourself. Because every time you forgive without a standard, you don't restore peace. You surrender leadership. And when a man gives that up, he doesn't lose her. He loses himself. Walk away not to punish her, but to protect the part of you that still knows what loyalty is supposed to look like. Every man thinks he's the exception, until he becomes the warning. You've now seen what destroys most relationships from the inside out. 10 mistakes, 10 quiet assassins of peace, power, and purpose. And the truth that ties them all together is simple. It was never about women. It was about you. About how much of yourself you were willing to trade away just to keep something that was never meant to be kept. You don't lose women because they're complicated. You lose them because you forget who you are while trying to keep them comfortable. You stop leading. You stop setting boundaries. You start negotiating your worth. That's how control slips away. Not in one explosion, but in 1,000 quiet concessions. The real danger in love isn't heartbreak. It's corrosion. The slow decay of masculine clarity. When you start tolerating disrespect, imbalance, or manipulation, you're not loving her. You're abandoning yourself. But here's the shift. You can choose differently. You can rebuild from strength, not scarcity. You can stop chasing connection and start commanding it. Women don't destroy men. Weak standards do. When you start demanding respect before affection, cooperation before romance, accountability before forgiveness, everything changes. You stop playing defense. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop living like your worth depends on her approval. You reclaim your peace. You rebuild your rhythm. You return to yourself. That's the kind of man women follow. Not because he's loud, but because he's grounded. Not because he controls, but because he leads. So if this message hit something inside you, if it woke up the part of you that's tired of giving without return, that's not anger. That's clarity. That's your standard waking up again. And when that happens, you're not losing anymore. You're learning how to win differently. If you felt this, it's time to move with intention. Subscribe. Share this with a man who needs to hear it, and stay close, because in the next video, we'll go deeper into how men rebuild trust after betrayal. Not from pain, from power. Any man can find a woman to date. But not every man can recognize the woman who deserves to be his wife. And that's where most men fail. They choose based on beauty or chemistry. And years later, they pay the price with regret, debt, and lost years. Here's the truth. A good wife isn't about luck. It's about recognition. And if you don't know the signs, you'll miss her even when she's standing right in front of you. That's why in this video, I'm breaking down 9 signs she's the one you should marry. These signs are your map, your filter, and your protection. As a psychologist and relationship coach who has spent years studying men's struggles in love, I can tell you this. Choosing the right woman is one of the most critical decisions you'll ever make. That's why I want you to subscribe, hit like, and share your story in the comments. What's one quality you believe truly matters in a lifelong partner? Because in the next moment, we're going to dive into the very first sign, one that looks past appearances and goes straight to the kind of connection that actually lasts. Number 1, she challenges you intellectually. Looks may draw you in, but let's be real. Appearance is the weakest foundation for a lifelong bond. A woman's beauty will change with time, but her mind, her ability to think, question, and engage with you, that's what lasts. When you sit across from her and feel like every conversation pulls you deeper into thought, when she makes you stop and rethink your own perspective, that's when you know you're not just with someone attractive, you're with someone valuable. Men often confuse comfort with connection. Comfort is easy conversation, surface-level small talk that passes time. Connection, on the other hand, is when she can meet you in your thoughts and push you further. It's when you bring her an idea and she doesn't just nod politely, she challenges you, sharpens it, and makes it stronger. That's the kind of woman who won't let you stagnate, who will keep you sharp even when the fire of romance cools down. Think about it. Life isn't a constant honeymoon. There will be quiet evenings, stressful days, and moments where attraction takes a back seat to responsibility. In those seasons, the question is simple. Can she engage your mind? Can she remind you why you respect her, not just why you desire her? Never sacrifice intellectual connection for fleeting excitement. A woman who stimulates your mind is more than a partner. She's a teammate in every sense. With her, you don't just share time, you share vision. And that, more than anything else, determines the strength of your marriage. Number 2, she is emotionally consistent. Let's cut through the noise. Every relationship will face storms, work stress, financial strain, health scares. What matters is not whether problems show up, but how the woman beside you reacts when they do. If her emotions are like a roller coaster, calm 1 minute, chaos the next, you will spend your life managing her moods instead of leading your life. That kind of instability will drain you, leaving you exhausted, second-guessing yourself, and wondering if peace is even possible. Now imagine the opposite. A woman who feels deeply but responds with steadiness. She can have bad days, yes, but she doesn't weaponize her emotions. She doesn't turn small issues into wars. Instead, she carries a sense of calm that grounds you. When life throws curveballs, she doesn't crumble, she adapts. That's the type of woman who becomes your anchor, not another storm you have to survive. Men underestimate this. They get caught up in charm, chemistry, or attraction, only to wake up years later realizing they married volatility. You need to look deeper. Consistency is not about being emotionless. It's about being reliable. It's about knowing that when you turn to her, she won't add fuel to the fire, but help you put it out. Ask yourself honestly, Do you feel at peace with her? Or do you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells? Peace isn't boring. Peace is priceless. A woman who brings stability is a woman who protects not just your heart, but your entire future. That is the kind of partner worth building a life with. Number 3. She is empathetic. Every man craves respect, but beyond respect lies something even more powerful: understanding. Empathy is not about her agreeing with everything you say. It's about her being able to step into your shoes, to see the world through your eyes, even when she doesn't share your opinion. When a woman has this quality, you never feel alone in your struggles. Think about the difference. One woman listens but dismisses your worries with a casual, "You'll be fine." Another listens, pauses, and says, "I get why that's heavy for you. Let's figure this out together." That moment of connection changes everything. It tells you she's not just hearing your words, she's absorbing your reality. Without empathy, relationships turn transactional. She wants something, you want something, and neither side truly feels seen. Over time, that emptiness breeds distance. But with empathy, even the hardest seasons become manageable. She doesn't just celebrate your wins, she sits with you in the losses too. She doesn't make it about her, she makes it about us. Ask yourself this: when you share your fears, does she make you regret opening up, or does she make you feel stronger for trusting her? That's the litmus test of empathy. A woman who embodies empathy becomes more than a partner. She becomes your ally. She doesn't just walk beside you, she walks inside the moment with you. And when you find that, you found a woman who can stand with you through victories, failures, and everything in between. Number 4. She is honest. Trust is the oxygen of a relationship. Without it, love suffocates. Honesty is not just about telling the truth when it's convenient. It's about being transparent when it's hard, when silence would be easier, when sugarcoating would keep the peace. A woman who is honest, even when the truth stings, is a woman you can build with. Picture this. You discover she's been hiding things, little lies that pile up until the foundation cracks. Suddenly, every word she says carries doubt. You start questioning her motives, her whereabouts, her promises. That slow erosion of trust is more destructive than any single betrayal. It's like living in a house with no foundation. Sooner or later, it collapses. Now, flip the script. Imagine a woman who lays her cards on the table. She admits mistakes instead of covering them. She tells you the uncomfortable truth because she respects you enough to handle it. With her, you may not always like what you hear, but you will always know where you stand. That certainty is priceless. Don't fool yourself. Honesty doesn't mean perfection. Nobody gets it right all the time. But when a woman chooses integrity over convenience, she's telling you exactly what kind of partner she'll be when life tests both of you. If you want a marriage that lasts, honesty is non-negotiable. Without it, love is just theater. With it, love becomes unshakable. And when you find a woman who embodies that, don't take it lightly, because she's showing you she's worthy of your trust, your respect, and your future. Number 5, she is ambitious. A marriage is not built on one person carrying all the weight. If you want a true partnership, you need a woman who has her own fire, her own drive, her own vision for life. Ambition is not about chasing fame or fortune. It's about having goals, having discipline, and refusing to sit on the sidelines while life passes by. Now, imagine the alternative. A woman who sees marriage as her final destination, not the beginning of a shared journey. Her plan is simple. Lean on you for everything while offering little more than dependence. At first, it might feel flattering. She needs you. But over time, that dependence turns heavy. You're not building a life together. You're dragging her along while trying to build it yourself. Contrast that with a woman who has her own ambitions. She doesn't just admire your hustle. She matches it. She supports your vision while also pursuing her own. She doesn't wait for opportunity. She creates it. And when setbacks come, she doesn't collapse into your arms expecting you to fix it all. She stands beside you, ready to strategize, to rebuild, to push forward. This kind of woman becomes your ally in the truest sense. Together, you don't just survive, you thrive. Your goals become aligned, your energy multiplies, and your marriage becomes a force that others admire. So ask yourself, is she content to simply exist, or is she committed to grow, build, and achieve? A woman with ambition won't just share your last name, she'll share your legacy. And that, my friend, is the kind of partner worth choosing for life. Number 6. She is committed to growth. The world is moving fast. New skills, new challenges, new opportunities. Everything changes in the blink of an eye. If the woman by your side refuses to grow, she will eventually fall behind. And when she falls behind, so will your relationship. Stagnation is the silent killer of marriages. Think about it. A woman who has no interest in improving herself becomes dependent, not just financially, but emotionally and intellectually. She leans on you for direction, for stimulation, for purpose. At first, it may not seem like a big deal, but over time, the weight builds. You find yourself carrying not only your own dreams, but dragging hers too. Except she has none. That's not partnership. That's dead weight. Now imagine the opposite. A woman who invests in herself. She reads, learns, adapts. She develops skills, builds resilience, and constantly sharpens her edge. She doesn't wait for you to inspire her. She inspires herself, and in doing so, inspires you. That kind of woman is a force. She makes your household stronger, your relationship deeper, and your vision for the future clearer. A marriage should be a place where two people sharpen each other, not where one grows while the other resists. If she is committed to growth, then every year you spend together becomes more valuable than the last. If she isn't, every year becomes heavier, duller, more frustrating. So ask yourself this: is she moving forward, or is she standing still? A woman who is committed to growth is not just a partner. She is a catalyst. With her, your marriage won't just endure time, it will evolve with it. Number 7. She is mature, not petty or jealous. Let's be honest, every man wants to feel desired. A little jealousy can even feel flattering. But when jealousy turns petty, when it becomes constant suspicion, it doesn't feel like love anymore. It feels like prison. And no man thrives in a prison. Picture this. You're at a work event, shaking hands, networking, trying to move your career forward. Instead of cheering you on, she's blowing up your phone, demanding attention, questioning every conversation. You're not just managing business, you're managing her insecurity. Over time, that pressure doesn't just frustrate you, it suffocates you. Now flip that image. Imagine a woman who trusts you. She knows who you are and she knows her own worth. She doesn't panic when you're around other women because she's secure in herself and secure in your bond. Instead of dragging you down with suspicion, she lifts you up with confidence. That's maturity. Petty behavior is exhausting. Mature love is energizing. One drains you, the other sustains you. And here's the truth. You cannot build a future with someone who treats every day like a test of loyalty. But you can build with someone who respects your independence because she's strong enough not to fear it. A woman who is mature understands that trust is the soil where love grows. Without it, nothing thrives. With it, everything flourishes. So ask yourself, does she give you room to breathe, or does she clip your wings? The answer will tell you everything about your future together. Number 8. She makes effort. Love isn't maintenance-free. It takes investment, time, energy, and intention. Too many men get caught in relationships where they're the only ones showing up, planning, initiating, fixing, and giving. That kind of one-sided dynamic doesn't last. If she's not willing to put in the work, what you have isn't partnership, it's dependency. Now imagine the reverse. A woman who meets you halfway. She doesn't just expect you to call, she picks up the phone too. She doesn't wait for you to plan every date. She surprises you with something thoughtful. She doesn't assume the relationship will run on autopilot. She actively fuels it with small acts that say, I care, I'm here, I'm in this with you. Effort is not about grand gestures. It's about consistency. It's in the way she supports you when you're stressed. It's in the way she notices the details, like how you like your coffee or when you need space. These small investments add up to something priceless, proof that she values you, not just the idea of being with someone. Without effort, love starves. With effort, love thrives. Simple as that. So ask yourself, when you look at her, do you see someone who gives as much as she takes? Or are you pouring into a cup that never fills yours back? The woman who makes effort shows you she's serious about the relationship, not just the benefits of being in one. That's the kind of woman you can build a future with, because she's already showing you she's willing to build every single day. Number 9, she inspires you to be better. A good partner doesn't just accept who you are. She calls out who you could become. The right woman doesn't settle for your potential sitting dormant. She pulls it to the surface, not with nagging, but with presence. Her drive, her standards, her way of living, it all pushes you to rise higher. Think about it. Some women drain you. They leave you tired, stuck, questioning your worth. Others ignite you. When you're around them, you feel sharper, stronger, more focused. That's not coincidence. That's influence. And influence is the most powerful force in a relationship. A woman who inspires you doesn't make you feel small. She makes you want to grow. She doesn't shame you into changing. She motivates you by showing what's possible. You watch how she handles challenges, how she carries herself, how she never settles, and you think, I need to step up. That's not pressure. That's partnership at its finest. Ask yourself this. Does she make you want to coast, or does she make you want to climb? A woman who inspires you becomes a mirror, reflecting not just who you are, but who you're capable of being. And when you find that, you've found more than love. You've found fuel. Marriage is not about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who pushes you toward completion. If she inspires you to become a better man, she is not just the one you should marry. She is the one you can build a legacy with. When you step back and look at these 9 signs, you see a pattern. They're not about perfection, because no woman or man is perfect. They're about foundation, intellect, emotional steadiness, empathy, honesty, ambition, growth, maturity, effort, and inspiration. These are not luxuries. They are essentials. Together, they form the difference between a relationship that thrives and one that eventually collapses under its own weight. The truth is, beauty fades, passion cools. But these qualities? They deepen with time. They transform ordinary love into extraordinary partnership. They carry you through the seasons when life is hard, and they amplify your victories when life is good. If you marry a woman who embodies these traits, you won't just have a wife. You'll have an ally, a confidant, a partner in the truest sense of the word. But here's the part most men miss. Recognizing these signs requires clarity and courage. Clarity to see beyond surface-level attraction. Courage to walk away from women who don't embody these traits, even if they check other boxes. Because settling for less doesn't just cost you happiness. It costs you peace, respect, and the legacy you want to leave behind. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just ask, do I love her? Ask, does she make me better? Does she stand with me when it matters? Does she embody the qualities that build, not break, a future? If the answer is yes, then you're not just choosing a partner, you're choosing your destiny. Now, if this resonated with you, here's what I want you to do. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me which of these 9 signs stood out to you most. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with a man who needs to hear it. Because the right woman doesn't just change your days, she changes your life. And every man deserves to understand what that truly means. Let me ask you something real. How confident are you that the woman you're investing in today won't betray you tomorrow? Because the truth is, love isn't enough. Attraction isn't enough. And hope definitely isn't enough. Without loyalty, everything falls apart, and the cost is devastating. You lose years, confidence, and the ability to trust again. But here's the good news. Loyalty isn't a mystery. It's written in her character. And there are 5 qualities that reveal everything you need to know. If she has them, you can finally breathe easy. These are the 5 qualities that guarantee she'll never cheat on you. And here's where most men go wrong. They assume loyalty takes time to reveal itself. In reality, it shows up instantly in the way she handles herself. Let's begin with the very first quality. Number 1, emotional maturity. If you want to know whether a woman is capable of staying loyal, the very first thing you need to look for is emotional maturity. Because here's the truth. An immature woman doesn't need another man to betray you. All she needs is her own ego feeling hurt, and she'll find a way to destroy everything you've built together. That's the silent danger most men never see coming. Now, emotional maturity isn't about never getting upset. Every human being gets frustrated, angry, or disappointed at times. The real test is how she handles those emotions. Does she confront problems directly, or does she shut down and run away? Does she communicate openly, or does she play manipulative games to make you guess what's wrong? An emotionally immature woman is a ticking time bomb. She sulks, she withdraws, she punishes with silence, and sooner or later she'll look for validation outside the relationship just to soothe her fragile self-esteem. But a woman with emotional maturity, she faces the storm head-on. She knows that running away from conflict only makes it worse. Instead of expecting you to read her mind, she tells you what's bothering her. She doesn't sugarcoat it, but she doesn't weaponize it either. And when she makes a mistake, she owns it. She doesn't shift the blame. She doesn't throw excuses around. She takes responsibility. That is the mark of a partner who values the relationship more than her pride. You'll notice something else too. She doesn't hold grudges. Once a conflict is resolved, it's done. She doesn't drag old arguments into new fights. She doesn't keep a record of every time you messed up. Why? Because she's playing for the long game, not for the cheap thrill of winning an argument. That's what loyalty looks like at its core. Here's why this matters so much. An emotionally immature woman will constantly be tempted to look for relief outside. When she feels unappreciated, she'll flirt with someone else just to remind herself she's desirable. When she's angry with you, she'll vent to another man instead of working it out with you. And slowly, step by step, she walks down the slippery slope toward infidelity. It never starts with the act itself. It starts with her inability to face discomfort and deal with it in a healthy way. An emotionally mature woman, on the other hand, sees cheating for what it really is. Not just a betrayal of you, but a betrayal of the partnership you've built together. She knows that stepping outside isn't going to solve anything. It's just going to ruin the very thing she's invested in. And because she's invested, she protects it. So how do you spot this quality before it's too late? Watch how she communicates when she's upset. If she clearly expresses her feelings instead of making you guess, that's a good sign. Notice how she reacts when she makes a mistake. Does she own it, or does she immediately try to blame someone else? Pay attention to whether she forgives once an issue is resolved, or whether she keeps resurrecting old arguments like a weapon. A woman who passes these tests is showing you she has the tools to stay committed for the long run. You won't have to constantly wonder if she's out there seeking attention, because she doesn't need it. Her strength comes from within, not from external validation. And let's be brutally honest. If she fails these tests, you're not just looking at someone who might hurt your feelings. You're looking at someone who could waste years of your life. Emotional immaturity doesn't magically improve once you're committed. It usually gets worse under pressure. Don't ignore the signs. Because at the end of the day, loyalty isn't just about promises. It's about how a woman handles the tough moments when emotions run high. If she has the maturity to face conflict, communicate openly, and protect the bond you share, then you're with someone who doesn't just talk about loyalty, she lives it. Number 2, respect for boundaries. If you want peace of mind in a relationship, you need to know whether she respects boundaries, not just yours, but her own. Because let's be real, cheating almost never begins with the act itself. It starts with blurred lines, a harmless text, a coffee that doesn't mean anything, a conversation that feels innocent until it isn't. And before you know it, loyalty has been compromised, not with one big decision, but with 100 small ones. A loyal woman understands that boundaries aren't restrictions, they're protections. She knows that respecting your individuality, your time, and your emotional security is essential. She doesn't push you into things you're uncomfortable with, and she expects the same from you. But most importantly, she draws a clear line between the relationship and the outside world, and she refuses to cross it. That means she's not entertaining flirty messages from her coworker just for fun. She's not keeping in touch with an ex for closure. She's not feeding her ego by letting random men linger in her DMs. Why? Because she respects the sacred space you've built together. When no one's watching, she still upholds the boundary. That's real loyalty. Transparency is one of the biggest signs here. A woman who respects boundaries doesn't make you play detective. She's not hiding her phone, being vague about where she's going, or making you guess who she's spending time with. And let's be clear, transparency doesn't mean reporting every detail of her life to you. It means being open enough that you never have to wonder if something shady is going on. Think about it. If she's going to hang out with male friends or colleagues, she makes sure you know who they are. She doesn't wait for you to find out by accident. She takes steps to make sure you're comfortable with the situation. She doesn't just avoid crossing the line. She shows you exactly where the line is, so you're never left in doubt. Another big sign. She shuts down inappropriate behavior right away. If another man flirts, touches her in a way that's not okay, or makes a suggestive comment, she doesn't entertain it. She makes it clear she's unavailable. A woman who values boundaries doesn't leave doors open for temptation. She locks them before anyone can even try to walk through. Why does this matter so much? Because cheating is rarely about a single moment of weakness. It's almost always about the pattern of little boundary-crossing behaviors that build up over time. An innocent coffee with an ex stirs up old emotions. A friendly message becomes emotional validation. And before you know it, the line between friendship and infidelity has disappeared. When a woman respects boundaries, you don't have to live in constant suspicion. You're not left second-guessing every interaction, every notification, every time she steps out of the house. You have peace of mind because you know she's protecting the relationship, not putting it at risk. So here's how you can tell. First, she doesn't play games with jealousy. She's not trying to make you insecure by talking about other men who find her attractive or flirting in front of you to keep you on your toes. That's childish. Second, she's upfront about her friendships. If she has close male friends, she introduces you. There's no secrecy, No need for you to wonder. Third, she takes action when someone crosses a line. She doesn't laugh it off. She doesn't downplay it. She puts a stop to it. When you're with a woman like this, you feel safe. Not because you're controlling her, but because she's controlling herself. She knows what's at stake, and she's actively protecting it. That's the kind of respect that builds trust. And without trust, there is no real relationship. And remember this, if she disrespects boundaries early on, she'll disrespect them later too. Don't fool yourself into thinking it's just harmless fun, or that she'll grow out of it. Boundaries are either respected or they're not. And if they're not, you're playing with fire. Number 3. Self-confidence. There's a dangerous trap many men fall into. They mistake insecurity for innocence. They see a woman who constantly doubts herself, who needs endless reassurance, and they think she just needs love, and I'll be the one to give it to her. But here's the harsh truth. A woman without confidence in herself will always be vulnerable to outside validation. And that hunger for validation can become the open door to infidelity. Self-confidence doesn't mean she's loud or that she posts motivational quotes on Instagram. True confidence runs deeper. It's about how she values herself, how she treats her own time, how she carries herself when no one is watching. A confident woman knows her worth. She doesn't need constant compliments from strangers to feel good about herself. She doesn't keep an ex on standby just in case. She doesn't fish for approval in her DMs. Her sense of value comes from within, and that's why she's not swayed by the cheap thrill of male attention. Now, think about the opposite. A woman who lacks self-confidence is always chasing something external. If she feels unnoticed, she'll post thirst traps online just to get a flood of likes. If she's upset with you, she might flirt with someone else to remind herself she's desirable. And if she's ever tempted, she's more likely to give in, because she doesn't have the internal strength to say no. That's not loyalty. That's insecurity playing with fire. So how do you recognize the difference? Start by looking at how she carries herself. A confident woman is comfortable in her own skin. She doesn't constantly criticize herself, fishing for reassurance every 5 minutes. She accepts her flaws without spiraling into self-pity. She's not perfect, but she doesn't need to be perfect to feel worthy. Next, notice how she reacts to your success. Does she cheer you on, or does she feel threatened? A confident woman isn't competing with you. She doesn't see your wins as her losses. Instead, she celebrates with you because she's secure enough to know that your growth doesn't diminish her own value. In fact, she takes pride in being by your side as you rise. Another test. How often does she say no? It might sound strange, but a confident woman isn't afraid to turn things down. She doesn't bend over backwards to please everyone because she doesn't need to. That means when another man makes advances, she can shut it down without hesitation. She doesn't flirt back just to be nice. She doesn't keep the door open for attention. She knows what she wants, and she knows what she doesn't. Here's a powerful question you should ask yourself. How does she respond when life doesn't go her way? Because this is where confidence, or the lack of it, shows the clearest. A woman with true confidence doesn't crumble when things get tough. She doesn't spiral into self-doubt or lash out at others. Instead, she handles challenges with determination and grace. She stays grounded. And when a woman can stay grounded in her own life, she can stay grounded in her relationship. This matters because infidelity often comes from insecurity. The woman who constantly doubts her own value will chase the high of being desired by someone new. She'll confuse attention with affection and flattery with love. And you'll be left wondering what went wrong, when the truth is she was never confident enough to choose loyalty in the first place. On the other hand, a self-confident woman gives you freedom. You don't have to worry about what she's doing when you're not around, because she's not out there trying to prove her worth to strangers. She's already secure in who she is. That security allows you to build a relationship based on trust, not constant suspicion. So don't overlook this. Confidence isn't just attractive, it's protective. It shields the relationship from the insecurities that can corrode loyalty. And if you ever find yourself with a woman who needs other men's eyes on her just to feel alive, remember this: she doesn't belong to you, and she never will. Number 4. Aligned values. Love without shared values is like rowing a boat with one paddle. You'll move, but you'll just keep spinning in circles, frustrated and exhausted. This is why so many relationships collapse, not because of a lack of attraction, but because the core values at the foundation never matched in the first place. And when your values don't align, loyalty becomes negotiable. Think about it. If loyalty, honesty, and commitment are values you live by, but she treats them as optional, what do you think will happen when temptation knocks? For you, infidelity is unthinkable. For her, it might just be a joke. If she laughs at cheating stories or shrugs them off like everybody does it, that's not humor. It's a red flag waving in your face. A woman whose values align with yours won't just avoid cheating because she fears the consequences. She won't cheat because it would violate her own code of honor. To her, stepping outside of the relationship wouldn't just betray you. It would betray herself. And that's the difference between someone who stays loyal when it's convenient and someone who stays loyal because it's who she is. So how do you identify whether your values are truly aligned? First, listen to how she talks about relationships. When she speaks about love, does she see it as temporary, or does she talk about commitment, building, and protecting it? Pay attention to how she views honesty. Does she treat white lies as no big deal, or does she hold integrity as non-negotiable? Look at her perspective on family, on loyalty, on long-term vision. These are the compass points that guide her decisions, whether you're around or not. Another subtle sign is how she reacts to other people's behavior. When she hears about someone cheating, does she get angry about the betrayal, or does she brush it off with a cynical laugh? When she sees commitment, does she respect it, or dismiss it as naive? These reactions reveal far more than any words she says directly to you. And here's where many men go wrong. They ignore value mismatches because they're blinded by chemistry, attraction, or the thrill of newness. They assume they can inspire her to adopt their values. But values aren't accessories you put on for someone else. They're the foundation of who a person is. If she doesn't already believe in loyalty, no amount of love from you will reprogram her. You can't negotiate someone into integrity. Aligned values don't mean you agree on every minor preference. It's not about liking the same movies or sharing hobbies. It's about agreeing on the fundamentals: what love means, how trust is treated, and whether commitment is sacred or disposable. When those align, you're building on solid ground. When they don't, you're building on quicksand. This matters because sooner or later, life will test you. Stress, distance, opportunity. These are the moments when values decide whether someone stays true or strays. A woman whose core values align with yours won't even entertain betrayal because it would go against her very identity. That's the kind of loyalty you can trust. So, don't just listen to her promises. Watch the way she lives, the beliefs she holds, and the standards she won't compromise on, because those values will shape every decision she makes when you're not around. And here's the bottom line. Attraction might pull you together, but values are what keep you together. Without them, everything else will eventually collapse. So, don't ignore the signs. Don't lie to yourself thinking chemistry is enough. If she doesn't share your values, you're not building a future. You're setting yourself up for failure. Remember this. Don't put your faith in words or temporary feelings. Put your faith in the values that guide her life. If they align with yours, loyalty isn't even a question. If they don't, loyalty is already impossible. Number 5. Genuine gratitude. There's a hidden truth most men ignore. Cheating often doesn't begin with desire. It begins with neglect. When a woman stops appreciating what she has, she starts looking elsewhere for validation. And that's why gratitude isn't just about saying thank you. It's one of the strongest shields against infidelity. A woman who genuinely appreciates you won't risk losing you for a cheap thrill. She knows the value of what you bring to her life, and she makes sure you feel it. Gratitude keeps her focused on what she has, not what she's missing. It makes her invested in protecting the relationship instead of wandering off to chase illusions. Now, here's where most men get played. They confuse politeness for gratitude. Saying a casual thanks when you do something is easy. Real gratitude is deeper. It's noticing the effort, the intention, the sacrifice behind what you do, and responding in a way that shows she values it. If you cook dinner after a long day, does she just eat it without comment, or does she acknowledge that you went out of your way for her? That difference matters. When a woman practices genuine gratitude, she doesn't just notice, she reciprocates. She finds ways to give back. Maybe it's planning something special for you. Maybe it's being there when you need her most. Gratitude isn't about balance sheets, but about recognition. She sees you, she values you, and she makes you feel like your efforts are worthwhile. That kind of energy strengthens the bond instead of weakening it. On the other hand, a woman who lacks gratitude slowly poisons the relationship. If she doesn't recognize your efforts, she'll start focusing on what she doesn't have. She'll nitpick, complain, and compare. And when that cycle builds, she becomes vulnerable to outside attention, because the second someone else notices her, she'll grab onto it as if it's gold, ignoring the treasure she already had with you. So how do you identify whether a woman has genuine gratitude? Watch for 3 things. First, she acknowledges your actions, both big and small. Whether it's fixing something around the house or listening when she needs to vent, she doesn't let it go unnoticed. Second, she responds with action, not just words. Gratitude isn't passive. It motivates her to give back in her own way. And third, she stays positive about the relationship. Instead of constantly focusing on flaws, she highlights the good, creating an atmosphere of encouragement instead of criticism. Here's why this matters. Gratitude builds a cycle. The more she appreciates you, the more motivated you are to keep investing. The more you invest, the more she feels valued. And in that cycle, loyalty thrives. But when gratitude is missing, the cycle runs the other way. You feel taken for granted. You stop trying. She feels dissatisfied. And suddenly, the door to disloyalty opens wide. Let's be brutally honest. A woman who doesn't value you will always feel like she can do better. And when someone else gives her attention, she'll treat it like an upgrade. But a woman who's truly grateful knows better. She doesn't gamble away a good thing for a fleeting temptation. She protects it. She nurtures it. She makes sure you know how much you mean to her. That's the power of gratitude. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it's the glue that holds loyalty in place. Without it, even the strongest attraction fades into resentment. With it, even the toughest challenges become easier to overcome. So pay attention. Don't settle for politeness. Look for genuine gratitude, because when a woman truly appreciates you, you'll feel it, not in grand gestures, but in the everyday ways she shows you that you matter. And that kind of woman, she's not going to risk losing you for anything or anyone. When you step back and look at these 5 qualities together, you realize something powerful. Loyalty isn't random, and it isn't luck. It's predictable. A woman who has emotional maturity, respect for boundaries, self-confidence, aligned values, and genuine gratitude doesn't just avoid cheating. She makes cheating unthinkable. Because loyalty isn't just a promise she gives to you, it's the way she lives. But here's the hard truth you can't ignore. If she's missing even one of these qualities, you need to be alert. Don't lie to yourself. Don't make excuses. Don't assume you can fix her or that things will change over time. Men don't lose because they choose the wrong woman once. They lose because they refuse to see the truth staring them in the face. If she lacks emotional maturity, every fight becomes a test of whether she'll run to someone else for comfort. If she doesn't respect boundaries, temptation is always one innocent message away. If she's insecure, attention from strangers will always pull her in. If your values don't align, loyalty will never mean the same thing to her as it does to you. And if she isn't grateful, she'll always believe the grass is greener on the other side. The mistake too many men make is thinking they can love a woman into loyalty. But you can't teach maturity, you can't force values, you can't beg someone into gratitude. These qualities aren't gifts you give her. They're traits she either already has or doesn't. And if she doesn't, you're fighting a losing battle. But here's the good news. When you do find a woman who has these 5 qualities, everything changes. You stop living in suspicion. You stop doubting her loyalty. You stop wasting energy on anxiety. Instead, you finally get to build something real, something safe, stable, and lasting. Not because you control her, but because she chooses every single day to be loyal. So here's my challenge to you. Stop settling. Stop hoping she'll grow into the woman you need. Start demanding these qualities up front, because you deserve loyalty that isn't fragile, that doesn't depend on fear or control, but on her own strength and character. And if you're ready to draw that line in your own life, here's what I want you to do right now. Subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button, share this with another man who needs to hear it, and drop the word loyalty in the comments if you're done accepting anything less. Because once you know the truth, there are no excuses. You either demand loyalty or you settle for betrayal.